Howdy! The Nintendo Switch, easily one of my favorite Nintendo systems ever made, and it's all because of its portability. You can play this thing anywhere, like your bed, the car, someone else's bed, in the middle of a lecture, the toilet. The Switch can do it all. On top of that, there's over 2,500 games for the thing, so boredom is just never an option. Though, there are games that I and many others really want for the Switch. There could be a new series that might get a new audience on the Switch, or maybe even a beloved franchise that could just reintroduce their old classic games to an entirely new generation. Today's episode's about games that I really want for the Switch. I want y'all to keep this in mind. Not all of these ideas are original. Others may have came up with the idea first, but that does not change the fact that I really want these ideas to come to fruition. With that being said, who here likes Donkey Kong 64?
Here we go.
I adore this game so much. It has flaws, and we'll get to those, but this game is such a good time whenever I decide to pop it in. This game never gets old for me. It controls great, the music is wonderful, the characters are so lively with their expressions. You can tell Rare really understood how to animate 3D models towards the end of the N64's life, and the visuals overall are still really good.
So it's the same old DK, only in 3D.
Well, that was a load of shit. Every game has its downsides, and this one has some really f***ing obnoxious downsides. The biggest flaw by far is the tag barrel. So having multiple playable characters is great, but then the game has you opening certain doors with specific characters, and if you aren't the character the game wants you to be, then you have to walk all the way back to a tag barrel, switch to the character you need to open the door, only for you to realize that the room is dedicated for someone else. So then you have to walk all the way back, grab the character you need, and then come back just so you can simply progress. This entire process is so tedious. Ideally, the best way to fix this issue would be to allow the player to switch Kongs on the fly, which is what a potential release on the Switch could do. And since Nintendo and Microsoft have been on good terms lately, what with Banjo being in Smash, there's a good chance that this game may very well get re-released someday, or even a full-fledged remake. Come on, Nintendo, make it happen. Alright, so here's a really simple concept to grasp. Yeah, honestly, I'm shocked this hasn't happened sooner. People who grew up playing the GBA are much older now and they want to play those games again. The only problem is some games require the big bucks and not every kid is willing to shell out $200 just to play Worms Blast. If Nintendo puts GBA games on the eShop, prices the games fairly, and frequently updates a selection of games on a weekly basis, then there's a good chance that those people will buy those games almost immediately. But like that'll ever happen. We all know what Nintendo's gonna do. They'll just keep milking the NES and SNES and leave every other console they ever released behind to rot. Yeah, they put GBA games on the Wii U, but the Wii U isn't portable. The Switch is. Put these games on the Switch. I'm calling these franchises abused children because Nintendo neglects the shit out of them. Despite every one of these games having a strong cult following, you will never see Nintendo release a new game for any one of these franchises because they don't print the moolah. Now, F-Zero and Battalion Wars do have a fair chance of making a comeback on the Switch. There's obviously an audience for another F-Zero. It's a tough-as-nails racing game with tracks twisting and turning in ways you'll never see with normal cars. And Battalion Wars could be a fun online strategy game with 4 players fighting each other for land and resources, especially if they brought back this gameplay style or fused it with the gameplay of Advanced Wars. Chibi Robo and Startropics, though? Yeah, these aren't coming back. At all. Chibi Robo sold much better in Japan, but the West did not care for this adorable little mechanized creep. It doesn't help that Nintendo refuses to market this franchise in any meaningful way. Trailers for the first game don't really convey what the game was about very well, and the sequel was a Walmart exclusive. It's like a roundhouse kicking a newborn. Which really isn't fair to Chibi Robo at all. It's such a charming little game, and an HD remaster of the first game on Switch may give this game the audience it deserves. Provided that Nintendo markets the game properly. Chibi Robo has gotten screwed over a lot, but what this franchise has gone through is nothing compared to Startropics. Startropics is great. It's one of the best games the NES has to offer. The gameplay takes some getting used to, but once you get it, whew, boy, it's such a good time, and the game sold well enough to get a sequel. And that was the end of that! Nintendo released Startropics 2 in 1994 on the NES. What was out at that point? Yeah, the Super Nintendo. It could have sold well. I feel like a new game taking some inspiration from 3D Zelda games would work great. Maybe it could be about Zelda returning and kidnapping Mike's uncle again. Then he forces Mike to gather a bunch of ancient artifacts so he can take over the world, or maybe it's just a straight-up reboot of the series. Some of you are probably gonna say, what franchise has a reboot after only 2 games? Well, here's the answer to that question. Ever heard of furry Star Wars?
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
I want this game in HD.
What an original concept.
Mario Odyssey. This is pretty good. The game looks amazing, sounds amazing, and it plays like a dream. 3D Mario games have always given the player good control over Mario, but this is bar none the best control ever in any 3D Mario game. So, since we have this really good 3D Mario engine, why not remake Mario Sunshine? If Odyssey looks this good, then just imagine how good Sunshine will look, and coupled with Mario's control from Odyssey on top of potential tweaks in the level design, just ugh! They could give us gyro control, aiming floods, add some of Mario's moves from Mario Odyssey for added mobility, update some of the music with modern syncs, give Mario different outfits. There's so many possibilities! A Sunshine remake would be awesome, and since it'd be releasing on a console that's actually successful, there's no doubt in my mind it wouldn't sell well.
So do you guys want to know what I really want? You see these? Mix it up!
I want a Metroid compilation on the Switch. Not just the Prime Trilogy, we gotta include games like Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission. Obviously put Super Metroid in there, but the goal of this compilation should be to give Metroid more of an audience so that there's more hype for Metroid Prime 4. Sure, a lot of people have played Prime 1, but most people haven't played Prime 2 or 3 and are probably not willing to shell out the cash to buy the games. Offering the Prime Trilogy along with some other Metroid classics thrown in at an affordable price may lure in some new fans. This could also be Nintendo's chance to update the original trilogy's control scheme. Giving these games dual analog control and gyro aim can make them much faster paced combat-wise since the original games had very old-school FPS controls. I could also see it improving Prime 2's multiplayer mode, and it can make fighting some enemies far more interesting since you're not just locking on and spamming that big green button. The original games don't need any updates though, just put them in and Metroid fans will eat it up.
Hey, Nintendo, you want more of my money? Put more N64 games on the eShop.
The N64 has beloved titles that deserve to be readily available for those who grew up with the hardware and for the younger crowd who just want to try out these classic games. Bethesda re-released Doom 64 on the Switch eShop, and it is by far the best way to play the game. But I don't just want N64 first-person shooters to be re-released, I want games like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and oh, Yoshi's Story on there, please! Some of these games are beloved classics, and re-releasing them could definitely turn some heads. I get they can't release some games like GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie since one is a property of the 007 franchise and the other one is owned by Microsoft. However, you can't tell me that they can't not re-release games like Mario 64 or Majora's Mask. They own the copyright to these games. Nintendo, could you please just release some N64 games?
Do you want to know something that genuinely creeps me out? Kids' cartoons like Dora. It's mostly when they ask you a question and then just kind of sit there for a good 10 seconds and then they start talking as if you answered the question. It's just not right. Like, here's an example. What compilation would I want on the Switch? That's right, Luigi's Mansion! You knew it!
If Nintendo released this trilogy in one package, oh man. That would be what dreams are made of. The original game would feel right at home on the Switch. It has 2 analog sticks right on the controller so it could totally mimic the original control scheme. Dark Moon could either retain its original control scheme or get updated with a control scheme utilizing 2 analog sticks. Luigi's Mansion 3, though? I don't know, maybe they could include some of the DLC as a nice little bonus. It's brand new. What are they gonna do? Give it a graphical overhaul? Or maybe, just maybe, they could remake the original game again with the third game's engine. I'm not just talking a graphical overhaul here, no, a complete remake with some of the charm from the later games like Luigi's characterization or Egad's slight narcissism. It could have the gameplay of 3 while also expanding upon the original game's mansion by adding new areas or even cut content. Almost the entire mansion should be explorable from the very beginning, allowing players to take on portrait ghosts in any order they choose, and give the rooms far more interesting ghost combinations to allow for more engaging encounters that require a bit more strategy. They could also fix one of the big problems with the game, and that was a reliable method to fast travel. Most of the time, players would have to walk where they wanted to go to progress, and it was such a boring slog. There was a form of fast travel, but it was kind of pointless since it was only one way. If some of the rooms and hallways had EGAD's pixelator and that allowed you to fast travel anywhere in the mansion with ease, then this hypothetical remake would be perfect. The only struggle this remake could really have is trying to maintain the original game's atmosphere.
That's a struggle all remakes have, really. Trying to make everything look and feel exactly the same whilst also trying to improve upon the original experience isn't easy. But you want to know another franchise that I really want to see get a compilation on the Switch? See these? Mix it up.
Zelda as a franchise has had several remakes and re-releases in the 30+ years of its existence. But shockingly, it's only had like one collection, and it was on the GameCube, and it was only available for people who pre-ordered Wind Waker. What I want is a collection on the Switch featuring Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD along with the 3DS remakes with some added enhancements like improved control, but most importantly, they should get rid of the bloom effect. Nintendo thinks the best way to remake a game is to take the old thing and... yeah, that's it. Sometimes the re-releases look worse than the original. All they had to do was up the resolution and streamline some things in the gameplay department and boom, instant money. This ruins the atmosphere in the Majora's Mask remake. This game is supposed to be dark and dreary, and the remake takes that feeling away with the much brighter lighting. Majora's Mask 3D could also use some other tweaks like restoring the original game's mechanics. And both 3DS remakes are going to need a complete revamp in the control scheme since the Switch isn't exactly rocking two screens.
That's all I got. There's no way in hell all these ideas are gonna happen, but it's still fun to speculate. The Switch has seen a lot of success lately, and it's the perfect chance for Nintendo to reintroduce a lot of their old, obscure franchises to a whole new audience. A good example of this would be Fire Emblem. Hopefully with the success of Fire Emblem, it might give Nintendo some inspiration to give Chibi Robo or F-Zero some time in the spotlight. And with the portability of the Switch, consumers could probably get some decent mileage out of these games. Provided that they're good. Though, remember how I said that you could play the Switch anywhere? Well, I lied. I don't play the Switch on the toilet anymore. Not after the incident.